All right. Hey, it's Mike Marlowe with Lighten Up Podcast. Today's special guest is Scott Young. I've known Scott Young for a long time. He handles certified lights down in Texas. He's been in business for probably most of his life. I want to hear his story, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Kind of short introduction. We'll kind of get into the rest of that. So, hi, Scott. How you doing, partner? I appreciate you making the time today.
Well, thanks for having me on. As you said, we've known each other a long
I
time.
know yeah, it's kind of like formal, like we're live, all that good stuff. But I know like we have known each other and we've been in the same holiday world for a long time. When I guess one of the things I don't think I ever knew is like your business when you had because I know you had the pest business. Did you have the pest business and then added holiday lighting? How did that go? Or when kind of what made you get into that?
I definitely had the pest business first. I started out working for an oil company for 10 years and kind of got into the business because my dad had a pest company and he got sick with cancer. So I was a little bit forced over to help him and realized I really enjoyed the entrepreneur spirit
Hmm.
and opportunities to make your own decisions. So um, grew that pest control business and got to the point where it was getting really hard every spring to hire good folks. In the fall, we were laying people off as we grew, growing 20% a year. Obviously, you're adding people, but then you can't carry a 20% or 25% drop off in revenue through those 4 or 5 months. So it was just a vicious cycle that I desperately wanted to get out of and needed to get out of. And it's funny because in the pest control trade magazines back in the day, we had trade magazines and people read the paper magazines. Um, Now it's mostly online, and I think they still actually have the paper magazines.
I
But
think they do. Yeah, they probably do, but it's not as prevalent as it was back in
yeah,
the
it's
day.
secondary, and for us old timers that still like to open it up,
Yeah,
although I
yeah,
mostly read online now.
yeah.
Um, and I advertise in some of that stuff online as well now. I remember just seeing ads about Christmas light, what a great business is. You should add it
Hmm.
on. They were in the pest control trade magazines, and for a couple of years, I was looking at them, and I would think about it, and I talked to my general manager about it, and again, wanting to fill that void, have some type of off-season add-on business. And I remember distinctively running a pro forma with $500 per house revenue, and thinking, man, this could really make money.
Yeah.
Being a very conservative financial person, cheapskate, my wife says, um, I was never going to pay $500. I'm like, who's going to pay $500 for Christmas? Someone to hang Christmas lights on their house. So that's why it took a couple of years of me to convince myself to jump into it. But um, once I do stuff, I do the research, I do the 80-20, maybe it's 90-10,
Mhm.
convince myself that's what I want to do, and I dive head first. So it turns out that a lot of people will pay $500. They'll pay $1,000. They'll pay $2,500.
Yeah, they'll pay a
First
lot
year,
more.
we did
Yeah.
$140,000 in revenue. In my second year, I did $360,000 in revenue. This was in 2006 and 2007.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that
So
was
you were.
a lot of
That's a lot.
craziness.
Yeah, and that's where everything was incandescent too. There were LEDs weren't even in the market.
Incandescent. For you folks out there that are doing this LED and you've
Yeah,
never experienced incandescent,
they have no idea.
you have no idea. Us old timers, man, you
Yeah,
had electrical maps and the
you had to
problems
run
were
your
tenfold.
wire. You had to do all your calculations right, and if you didn't, you're gonna pop some GFCIs. And
Electricians on staff, and it
yes,
was a whole different ballgame. But that's how I got started. I mean, I just needed to fill a void, and I was looking for a service that would work. And I have to tell you, anybody who's seeing this and thinking about it, if you have a service business, Christmas lights are awesome.
yeah,
Like any business, you got to do it right. You have to get trained. Training is extremely important to know what you're doing, get past those pitfalls. But if you do it right and you price it right, it's one of those birthdays, weddings, funerals, holiday. People will pay more than they'll ever pay on any other service, and it could be super lucrative.
yeah. It's funny that you bring that up because I think part of it is back in the day when you first started, I'm sure you probably made a lot of failures because there probably wasn't the right proper training out there or the how to's that are out there nowadays that anybody want to jump in. And that's I think that's the biggest change I've seen is that back in the day a lot of companies didn't get into it because they didn't have the time or efforts to learn it, you know And granted, I know the incandescent was not fun. I'm glad LEDs are around.
Well, I knew you guys. I didn't know y'all when I trained, but once I started the business, I met you and Scott and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
back in the day and ordered from y'all. But I won't name names, but I got training from a company and paid $5,000 for that week-long training. And it's literally the best training I've ever done, the best money I've ever spent. There is no way I would have done that 140 and then 360,000 the second year and not just failed miserably, because it's so important to you get those customers done right and happy the first year so that they come back.
Yeah, so you don't get a high retention and all that.
Retention's huge. Like the half of, or at least 35% of that second year was my returning customers. They're all happy. I knew what I was doing, even with incandescent. We trained well. We followed up. We had a really good plan, processes put together that have grown over the 15, now almost 16 years of doing Christmas lights. It's pretty crazy to say that.
Yeah, no, I get you. As we go in, as you're fast forward a little bit in your business, because I know you had a very successful, you were running both things parallel. You had your pest business and your holiday business. You took both approaches very seriously, because I've seen a lot of companies will think, oh, it's holiday lighting, we'll get back to it in like September. But I mean, I know that you took both of those and you always had a lot of planning, from my understanding when I was working with you before. So can you go through a little bit of processes, how you're able to manage the two companies that way?
Yeah, and it a little bit went with the economy. And when I started the Christmas light business in 2006 and had those two really good years, the third year was 2008. And if you were in business in 2008, what a crazy time that was. So the Christmas light actually saved us somewhat. I mean, my pest control business was much larger, but I had about half of my residential customer base in pest control cancel. I would literally get calls and we would say, like, we've been servicing for 4 or 5 or 8 years, whatever it was. We hate to lose you as a customer. We'll give you a discount. Sometimes we got to the point saying half off, and they were like, look, I can't pay my mortgage unless it's free. I got to cancel. So it was shocking. Like, I laid a lot of pest control people off, but I barely lost any Christmas light customers. It was amazing.
That tells you right there when they say it's recession-proof business.
And now, I had a pretty high-end base, so they could afford it. The rich people still want their lights.
Yeah.
They did scale back, so instead of having a $3,000 or $4,000, maybe it was a $2,000 or $3,000. Some kept it whole, but the reality was none of them canceled. It was huge to get me through a couple of years until, in Dallas, it came back pretty quickly. 2010, we started growing again. And the only reason I don't have a multi-million-dollar Christmas light business is my pest control started taking off, and it grew $4 or $5 million of revenue, and so I was having to balance. I kept growing Christmas lights, but didn't have a lot of focus on it. It wasn't my main business, but it continued to be a key piece of my business. It was always about 20. And what that did was basically spin off cash, because that Christmas light business was much higher margin than the pest control. And I wasn't adding any overhead.
Right.
So all I was doing was I usually hired 15 folks during the off season, but all my pest control folks were my team leads or my key players, my sales guys. And then I'd hire the staffers that we'd train up and the team members under them. So it just really spun off a lot of cash, which allowed me to accelerate the growth of that pest control. So it was a big balance, but it was the Christmas lights was a critical piece of that.
So how long were you doing the business in the pest control? Because how many years ago was it that you left that business?
It's kind of a two piece. So I left the oil company I was working for in 2000. I'd worked for him for 10 years and worked with my brother, took over my dad's business with my brother, and we grew that business in Houston was our main branch. We opened Corpus in Dallas. And then after 5 years, we had the family and friends and don't do that. And love my brother to death, but just, we were getting on each other's nerves and all that kind of stuff. So we ended up selling that main branch in Houston to Terminex. and he took Corpus and started a new corporation. I started a new company up in Dallas. And so I had that 5-year growth with him. We sold it, gave me some cash to grow the pest control. So from 2005 to just a couple of years, then I started the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And so it was this new entity. I was the growing pest control. It was kind of hand in hand. I already had my base business from starting it in like 2002. But 2005 was my own company. We had 4 or 5 technicians, grew it to 10 or 11. Again, we're having to lay off. And that's when I said, man, I got to do something. And I started the Christmas light business.
Yeah, did you think about it? If you think about it now, I'm sure you're probably like thankful that you did the holiday lighting, because
it was huge.
Yeah. Cause I just know there's so many companies that I talk to in the same scenario, maybe different paths, but it's still like, they always get back to like Christmas saves. And I'm a believer that Christmas saves companies all the time in holiday lighting, because the retention, if you do it right, retention stays high, and there's a lot of good margin, like you mentioned already, and it just continues to grow. So yeah, kudos to you to see that, back then when it was hard. Because I remember during that time frame, for me, I was calling on to people like yourself to get into the business. And I got so many doors shut down on me when I was doing cold calls and just say, hey, why don't you look at this? And it was just kind of, nowadays, it's like, everybody's like, I want in, it's like kind of the gold rush.
It really is. And I think that, because more companies are open, we're having these webinars and podcasts like this that help spread the word. I would say 2 things to that. One, my only regret about Christmas lights is I didn't start 2 years early and mulled it over for 2 years.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And 2 is, as much as I preach how awesome it is, you have to be business smart. You have to price right. You have to control your expenses. You have to have quality products. You can't buy the cheap stuff out there. You got to go get quality, great product. You have to lean on people like yourself and me or anybody else who's out there trying to help you learn, and not be so stubborn and focused. And we're all entrepreneurs, right? So we think we know it all.
Yeah.
The really good entrepreneurs know, while they think that, they know when it's time to raise the white flag and try to reach out for some help and take advantage of that, because folks like yourself and me, we've been around. We're trying to give back at this point. We have stuff to offer, and you can take it or not, but you ought to at least seek out the advice, I think.
Right. Yeah, because I would say that Scott and I are not the enemy. We are actually there to help you and build the business. And, we have the experiences of, even if it's somebody that's just starting off. I talked to a gentleman the other day that was he's just a one single owner person, but he goes, I want to get into lighting because I see that could be the future for me in his area. And I'm like, what am I supposed to say? No, you're not big enough. I can't help you. No, I'm going to help him. I'm going to give him some advice, and and there's certain things that he has to get done. So.
Yeah. And I think this podcast is a perfect example of, we're semi-competitors, but
the
pie is so big out there. And I think if folks like yourself and me work towards, I know I get a little bit of grief from people in the industry. Well, you're bringing more people in the industry. And my answer is always, I'm trying to bring people in the industry the right way. They're coming one way or another, we can let them just get their truck out there and bid cheap and do these crazy low bids, or we can explain to them, this is an unusual business that you can really make good money on if you don't go out, chase the rabbit hole and first to the bottom, keep your margins up. This is how you do it, and just educate them and help them be successful in a professional manner in our industry.
Yeah. Cause I always took the same approach that you're doing, is like, I always kind of took it as like, I'd rather have a standard out there as I always kind of call it, if you're going to call yourself a professional decorator, you gotta know how to be a professional decorator. You just can't just put the title under, on there, slap on your truck or whatever. And I think that comes in where some people try to do shortcuts in business, and usually the ones that do shortcuts usually will kind of be exposed over a period of time. And the ones that take the time to learn it are the ones that have the longevity in it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. In the end, your business and your reputation and your work will speak for itself. Right. For me, I don't think I've advertised in 2 or 3 years. I haven't been trying to grow hard. I'm changing that since, I've sold my pest control business again and focused on the Christmas and the lighting business in general. But as you know, when you get to a certain size and you've been in the business long enough, your biggest lead is your referrals. When you do good work, people don't want to mess around. It's such a short window in Christmas lights. Unlike, okay, I'm going to give this guy a shot to mow my yard. If he messes up, it's going to grow back and I'll get somebody else.
It's like 2
You
weeks.
mess up in Christmas lights and there's nobody else behind him to get, and it's just a mess. So,
well, and you know how busy it gets during that. Let's say you fast forward to the middle of November, and I know how it is for us. Sometimes we got 100, 150 leads, and we have maybe 20 slots open, 20, maybe 30. And it's too late to bring on 3 guys on and think that you're going to run a crew when it's too late, because you almost got to invest into it.
It's certainly a mistake to do that.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
I think people try to do that sometimes, and as business owners, we never want to say no. We never want to lose a bid. But you got to think long and go, okay, I might be able to get another $10,000 here, but I got to also tarnish my reputation by throwing guys out in the field that aren't well trained. And that goes back to the type of stuff you and I have experienced, and we can help folks say, look, it's going to be tempting to do this, but your reputation is more important.
Just plan ahead and you keep those leads there, because they might not have found somebody that year, and then you can work with them the next year. And that just, I see that too many times. And even, I'm sure you probably experienced it too, where you didn't have enough people to work, or obviously not nowadays, not so much. I know like last year, because of the way the shipping was, there was a lot of product, and the year before that, there was a lot of product issues because it was not enough supply, and I know that's where, I know you started your distributing side business, which was very smart. I commend you for doing that. Let me ask you this, because I really outside looking in, I love your videos. I love your marketing approach, and you did a good job on somebody that just jumped into it, because that tells me I know business. But tell me a little bit of your experience of the decision why to start a distributorship in the lighting, which I think is awesome, and B, then the training on top of that. So I just want to get your take on it and how you see it.
Well, for me personally, I've been ordering from China for a long time. As you know, that's a very rough road. It's years of trial and error and making some bad decisions, having some bad contacts, and working your way through and getting product that's not what you had ordered or expected. But having spent all that time, invested all that money, I felt like I had an opportunity to provide quality products that we specially use. So in our distribution, we're not trying to be everything to everybody. Each business is a little different. Our model is to try to train people on how we do Christmas lights, why it's very successful to us, how we get that 30% plus margin. And there's specific things you should do to get that. It's a great revenue business for sure, but like any business, if you're not financially watching your cost and your gross margin and your net margin,
you can rack up some credit card bills pretty quick.
You'll rack up credit card bills, you'll get debt. But I think for me, I'm 55 now, and I've been doing service business for 25 plus years, and I know how hard it can be. And I felt like it's an opportunity for me again to give back to an industry that's been very good to me and helpful to me, and help young folks I see out there. We did training in February. I think we had 25 plus companies.
That's great.
And it was so exciting to see these guys just light up at the opportunities and the knowledge and the information and soak it up. And we're going to try to, continue to follow up with them and make sure they're doing the things that will just basically give their business the same pump and energy that it gave ours, and that extra cash flow, and how to use that to plow it back in your main business. So it's not just about growing Christmas lights or your Christmas light business, but like we talked about earlier in the conversation, is how to leverage that cash you're getting from Christmas lights to pump up and drive your regular business. And in turn, it's going to do the same, because you'll transfer some of those, and it
goes back and forth. You're right. Yeah, because I just know that's so important, because it sounds like to me, you're taking the approach of, you're not just trying to sell them product or sell them the service, but you're trying to make them better business owners.
Exactly. That's one of my main goals. Is I talk a lot about bringing your business to the next level, and it's not just Christmas light business. That's important to you. If you're already doing Christmas lights and you come to one of our trainings or get involved with you or any other trainer out there in our industry, any industry, their goal should be, getting everyone to understand what it takes to grow a business. Because it doesn't matter whether it's pest control, your franchising, landscape lighting, lawn care. It's all about understanding your numbers and having processes and driving your business through those ways that are going to give your bottom line that extra juice. Because I'm pretty sure we're all out, and our main goal is to make money and make the most.
I sure hope that's the end game, because I know that if you're not doing that, I'm kind of wondering eventually, I just know that the way that inflation is and everything else, you're still going to have to pay a lot more for something. So.
And I love Christmas lights, and I enjoy seeing the customers' faces light up, but I also want to make money doing it. So even with the idea of, giving back to the industry and helping these folks, we try to give inexpensive training to get them knowledgeable and to help them grow their business and understand how to run a business, including Christmas lights. But obviously, I want to grow my distribution, and that's part of that combination of my niche and my focus is, if you want to know how to run a Christmas light business like we do and the products we use, we're going to partner with you. We call it partnerships and help them do that. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Like, y'all have a much more complete package that you can offer to your franchisees that fits people who really want to go out and maybe are off from a corporation or wanting to start their own business. You've got a great model to really get people with a lot of franchise support behind that. Mine's just a smaller version of that, where it's not as complete. But if you're have a company and just want to add it on or learn a little bit more about how to improve your current business, that's the kind of training and information we're offering.
Yeah, that's awesome. And because, with somebody of your experience, because you have a lot of the business know-how to how to run a multi-million-dollar operation, which a lot of times, companies are still striving to get past that first million. All right, Scott. So tell me about this training I keep on seeing online everywhere. You've done a great job of marketing, and I know you have a vast amount of information that you're sharing. Just give me kind of an overlay, or everybody out there listening, just give an overlay of what you're doing and just the mission that you're trying to do.
Sure. We're just taking the 15 years of experience, tricks of the trade, stumbling blocks we run into, and alleviate that for folks that want to get into this industry. Or more importantly, a lot of the folks that we train, or maybe people that have 1 or 2 years under the belt, they jumped into it without any training, and they're realizing, man, if I just got some more basic stuff or some, like I said, tricks of the trade, it really make things easier. So our training is really not just focused on the installation piece of Christmas lights, but how to run a business overall and how to get your margins up, your costs down, how to forecast long-term, looking at your highest percentage cost items and really focus on this, running it as a business instead of just kind of a hobby or a sidekick.
Yeah, and I think that's important when you start to dive into, like, it's a 365-day business. It's not just a different kinds of money, because there's always something to do, right, in the business.
There's so many little things, as you know, from doing this for years and years. Each year I find something, if I can just tweak one thing in my business on how we do something that makes it more efficient, it just drops right to the bottom line. And so that's some of the things that we have that we've learned over time that have really taken our net margin from, 15 or 20% to 30 plus, some years 40 if we're not growing as much and the product's in stock and the customers have already purchased it. So
yeah, you hit a key point, and I think it's something I just like to dive in just a little bit, is that the net margin, what's your EBITDA basically of how you run your business. And I think that's really crucial, because sometimes people, I'm not going to generalize it, but there's we get into a situation where we look at the gross sales, like, look, I sold all this and I did all this work. And then sometimes you spend a whole bunch on your cost of goods and your labor and your overheads there. So you really have to be very cautious of your EBITDA at the end of the year. So, I like that 30 to 40 mark, especially in the holiday lighting. If you can get past 40%, you're cruising good in your operations.
One of the things I talk about in my training is, if you're not doing 30% net margin, and that's net, folks, not gross, not not paying yourself all in expenses, to me, you really shouldn't be in the business. It's fun. It's cool. It's a lot of money. It's exciting. But as you know, every year it's a lot of work.
It's a pain. Yeah.
September, I'm excited. October, I'm selling. November, we're starting the installs. And by the end of November, I'm every year, why the hell am I doing this?
Right. No doubt about it.
January and February, I start counting my money going, okay, that's why.
Yeah. Then you get like a couple months break, and then you really start diving back into it because you definitely need to have that break. I mean,
it's a long 50 days of installation. And,
yeah.
So one of the things in our business, I think probably like your business you're in now, where you're getting customers and supporting them, we want to help folks that are either in the industry recently or getting industry or thinking about getting into the industry to come in it on a professional level. I've had people within the industry say, well, you're just bringing more people into the industry. Well, sort of, but not really. In my mind, I'm bringing them in the right way. I'm getting them to come in and price right, to understand their costs, to be professional, to uniform, to have a website. Mm-hmm. There's a huge pie out there that's growing every year. And the more we get professional, the more people will look at us and think, okay, it's worth paying that higher dollar amount because look at the company that's coming out. They're guaranteed, they're insured, they're professional, they follow up. And if we're all doing those things, then we can just increase that size of that pie and all benefit.
Yeah, because then everybody, the whole industry will win when that happens.
Exactly. And allows everybody to increase their prices. It's not a race to the bottom, it's a race to the top,
Yeah, because we're just educating more because I always kind of looked at this as a premium service. I think that I've talked about that in front of a lot of people, but it's a learned trade. There's not like you have this you can go through trainings, which is very important, but there's not like a specific university or a specific certification that's really designed that you can't do it unless you have that. Now ours is all learned trade, and you got experts like yourself and myself, and there's other companies out there doing training. I think training is a huge part of our business.
I think anyone who starts in this business or really in any business and doesn't get training is not starting off on the right foot, because we're all entrepreneurs, right? So we all think we know, we all think we can do it.
It's the stubbornness.
That's what makes us great, right? Like we're going to plow through and get it done, but wouldn't it be easier to work smarter by knowing how to do it first? And you can always put your spin on the business. You can change stuff up. Like I tell people throughout my training, this is how we do it. We're training you our 15 years of doing this. All the products we sell on our distribution side are our products we use. They're guaranteed. We're not going to sell anything that we don't use. So we have faith in it that we've tested. But if you're not getting that training up front and you're trying to just, work harder through it, grinding isn't always the best way. You need to grind anyway, right? You're not successful unless you grind. But if you can grind with some smarts, get trained up front, man, this is a business you can really take off quickly.
Yeah, and it can actually help fund other divisions or other parts of your business. You might have an aspiration to do something else in the off season of what Christmas is really there. But this could give you the affordability to bring more people on, as well as maybe even get that financial security that you're going to need as a business owner to go do those things that you want.
I think that's an awesome point, because for us personally, I experienced that. I think we talked earlier in the podcast about how I started was trying to fill the void for my pest control, and it allowed me that Christmas lights. I could have gone and spent the money. It's a lot of cash. Mm-hmm. I just blew it into my pest control, allowed me to advertise everybody and blow that business up. So whether you're doing it on your side and you just want the cash flow, you're supplementing your company. It's just a great business to add on or to start or to have to fill whatever your personal need is.
Yeah. And it's not like it's a huge undertaking to get into the business, but you got to have some certain traits to be able to run this fast-paced business. I mean, you got to be able to know if you can't manage people, don't do it. If you don't like ladders and you know that, don't do it. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that there's some indicators that, it's like, hey, it's this simple way. Like, I don't go out to the Bering Sea to make a lot of money and pick up crabs off some boat that I don't really want to be on a boat in the Arctic or wherever,
Exactly. So you do have to have some appreciation for what we do. And to your point, there's grind it year round, and there's really the seasonal grind.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an unusual situation because it's so lucrative that, if you're like me, and I know you are, you don't want to lose a bid. You don't want to not.
No, you want to win them all. And
you want to win them all.
Attitude. So if you don't have the winning attitude, then why you're doing it. So you got to keep on trying.
But it can be a really good business for a variety of people in a variety of situations, for sure. Just get that training from somebody. That's what I would recommend.
Well, I know at the bottom here, guys, on this ticker, when you see this on, I'll get this out tomorrow. But so Scott, he puts on physical in-person trainings, but he also has some virtual trainings coming up. So make sure to go to his website, growwithholidaylights.com/mastery. Is that the right site to go to?
Yeah, that's our site that we publicize our training on, our
Okay.
certifiedlights.com. You can also find there's a training tab on
Certified.
there. And the certifiedlights.com also has our distribution stuff and more about our company. It's kind of our main website, but this is our click funnel, get our word out on the growwithholidaylights.com.
Yeah. So if anybody's out there to look and get in the business, visit Scott Young. Make sure that you talk to him. He has the knowledge. I recommend Scott all day long. I mean, he's a stand-up guy. He's always been a stand-up guy to me. I have tons of respect for what he's doing. And I just know that he's got the right attitude about kind of training people. He's not looking for the fast buck. He's actually training people for the right reasons. And, I got to commend you for doing that, Scott, because a lot of people will look.
I really appreciate that, Mike.
Yeah.
And ditto. I mean, I've known you for 15 years.
Yeah.
It's great to see people grow in this industry. And I think we both want to help other people be successful.
Oh, darn right we do. Yeah, it's a fun business. And I think we all have to go with the fun part, and let's just ride together. So
laugh your way through it. Don't cry. I promise.
Yeah. If you're crying, I would seek counsel right away.
Yeah. Because you're close to it, but it's a great business.
But yeah, no. So yeah, I appreciate Scott getting on. I know I've said it takes a lot of effort to be able to get on these things and kind of schedule it in. So I do appreciate your time. I told you it was going to be very easy to talk to, but I'll get this publicized out there in the YouTubes and the Facebooks and all that stuff. But I wish you very much success in your business on all facets. So
I really appreciate that and look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yeah, I'll have to get down to Texas and we'll go out and get some dinner and just talk about whatever we got to do. Probably Christmas. So
For sure. A couple of beers and we're bound to talk.
Yeah, you're never gonna lose it. So
no, I appreciate that.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of your night, and like I said, best of luck. All right, sir.
Thanks, Mike. Good to see you, man.
All right, good seeing you.
Okay, bye.